gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyper-Conscious Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode where we sat down and talked about how big dreams are a great indicator of how your friendships are going to go.
Oh, yeah?
Today, for episode number, 325?
325.
325. We are going to do a Scratching the Surface episode on how to get over your fear of sales.
And that's the beginning. That's the intro.
Yeah, that's how it starts.
So before we jump into this episode, I have an interesting analogy to bring to the table about coaching.
Oh, my God.
So I thought about this earlier. How does a group of teenagers who go into the military, who are fairly undisciplined teenagers, right, become not afraid of warfare? It's through consistent daily habits. And I was thinking about like boot camp. Like, what is a boot camp? Boot camp has a drill sergeant that literally tells you what to do, when to do it, and forces you to do things you don't want to do. Hard workouts, just ridiculous amounts of discipline. And then someone who was once a 17-year-old scared, undisciplined kid becomes a Marine. Why? Because they did so many things outside their comfort zone because they had someone coaching them and forcing them to do it. Now, coaching is not quite boot camp, but what if Kevin or myself were to take you through a regimen, a process that made you more confident, made you more clear, made you more focused, like developed skills to overcome your fears and to actually chase your dreams and goals? Like, that's the main thing, is accountability. We will help you stay accountable to yourself, help you keep the promises you've made to yourself, help you achieve more than you ever thought possible.
And if you look at our goals, if you look at the podcast, if you look at what we do, there are a small number of things that actually matter in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
And a lot of people out there are trying to tell you guys what to do that either they've never done themselves or there really is not that much of a benefit. We're not trying to get you to buy a product. We're trying to help you by showing you where we screwed up or the things that have really helped us or what we're learning from our world-class mentors. We will bring those things to you and help you accomplish your dreams. Okay.
So I'm going to ask Kev some questions.
I like this.
About how to get over your fear of sales.
Yes.
This is exciting.
Yeah,
okay, so
yeah.
number one, we've got a whiteboard here with 5 questions.
Yeah.
Number one, why were you, personally,
Me personally,
Kevin,
yeah.
afraid of sales?
I actually had a sales background. I wouldn't call it that. It was a dull background filled with holes and such because it was brutal. When I was a personal trainer, a big part of being a personal trainer in a studio setting is sales.
Right.
And I was afraid of sales because I had connected that in order to be a salesperson, you had to hurt the other person. Kind of saying like, okay, let's dig in here.
Right.
Okay, so one of the examples is they would say like, you're not in shape. Can you imagine what it would be like for you not to see your grandkids grow up because you're not in shape and you're going to die, basically? And for me, one of the reasons I was afraid of sales is because it always felt sleazy to me.
Right.
And also the other thing is I don't like getting rejected. Most people, if you're watching this or listening to this, you probably don't like getting rejected either. It's probably not something you wake up in the morning and say like, yeah, hell yeah.
No one likes getting rejected.
But that kind of is what sales is. Sales is a numbers game. And you have to understand that you're going to get more no's than you do yeses.
Sales is a numbers game. Can you unpack that?
Yeah, I think if you work with me and you are looking to build your business and you have like a product or a service that's mainly online, I'm going to ask you how you are prospecting. What is prospecting? It means reaching out to people and touching them. The more people that know about your service, your product, the more people that can ultimately buy. So, yeah.
Targeted
What was the question you asked me?
I asked you, what did you mean by numbers game?
Oh, yes.
So I agree.
Yeah, the more, if you reach out to 100 people, say 10 people get back to you, you have 5 phone calls with those people, you might close 1 sale. And those numbers are actually probably more aggressive than they actually are.
Right.
But it is a numbers game. Just like if I said to you, dating can be a numbers game too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The more people you reach out to, and yes, they are targeted. These are people that you actually would date. The more people you reach out to, the better chance you are of getting a date.
And what does targeted mean?
So they're the people that you like to work with. They're the people that will buy your product. They're the people that maybe are in your demographic, right? If you have my podcast coaching is different than my peak performance coaching. I was actually telling my client about this the other day and how important it is to get clear in your ICA. If I came to one of my clients that is for mindset and I said, my price is $2,000 a month, it's different. Like my demographic would have to be different.
Right.
There's a reason I like to work with CEOs and entrepreneurs who are too busy to do the podcast. Too busy infers that they have money coming in from that too busyness, where the mindset side, I might work with somebody who doesn't have that.
Comes in for that too busyness.
Too busyness.
Fire.
So, and I might, I work with people who do not necessarily have that high level of income on the mindset side, and I try to help them grow that income.
Amen.
We're going behind the scenes here
Fire.
on the coaching.
Fire so far. Number 2, how did you get over that fear of sales and why?
Get broke.
Oh,
Yeah, like I saw
Shit.
a post today. I saw a post today. His name is Bedro Scullion. You know him?
no.
Yeah, he's very big.
Okay.
Valuetainment on YouTube. Somebody reached out to him, DM'd him, and said, I'm having trouble selling my product. I'm afraid of sales. Any suggestions? And he said, yeah, sell everything you have and give every last dime you have away. You'll get good at sales. So how did I get over that? By necessity. I remember coming to Alan and saying, yo, I'm broke. I don't have any money. I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills. And he said, all right, we got to get you some clients.
And I remember we whiteboarded.
Yeah, and then
I'll
we
never
figured
forget
out
that.
what that system was. So Alan was the early onset of how I actually learned sales.
Dude, you had like 3 or 4 clients the first week after we did that.
Yeah.
Literally, we did a masterminding whiteboarding session, and then that same week he got like 3 or 4 clients.
So
It's
the
fire.
reason we're doing this topic and the reason Alan is asking me questions is because a year and a half ago, I was this person.
Right.
If you're afraid of sales, I was you. Was you?
This is a funny one. This is a funny one so far. I love it. Okay, number 3. What's one belief that you think our listeners should adopt about sales?
All right, I think I'll give you a couple beliefs.
I like it.
I think one belief is that you're not sleazy for being a salesperson.
Right.
I think a lot of people think like when you think
I'm laughing because I said shit.
yeah,
Earlier.
in that weird way.
Yeah.
When people think sales, they probably think like used car salesman,
Right.
right? Like that's one thing. So disassociate with the fact that if you've come across bad salespeople in the past, like that's not every salesperson.
Right.
Number 2, you are doing the market a disservice by not selling your product.
Fire.
You should believe so much in your product that if this person does not buy from you, and that doesn't mean you pressure them, but if they don't buy from you, they're making a mistake, and you're also doing them a disservice by not selling them that product. That was unbelievably important for me. And it took me a few times of helping somebody with their podcast to realize, like, this is valuable.
Right.
Like, I actually had a call from one of my clients like 20 minutes ago when we were whiteboarding out.
Right.
And he was saying, hey, this equipment isn't working. How do I fix this? That's valuable.
Right.
If he has a podcast he's getting ready to do, that's valuable.
Right.
Right? So you have to understand that your product is valuable.
You also have to understand that they're going to spend that money anyway. And remember, like, especially if you're in this space, this is one thought process I think through. If they do not come to our speech, if they do not listen to this podcast, if they do not read these books, if they do not hire me as a coach, I know they're worse off. This is not even a maybe they're worse off. I know they're worse off. That is how deeply I believe in personal development. That is how deeply I believe in my own coaching. So if whatever you sell is not something that you believe so wholeheartedly in, I would start there, because you cannot sell that which you cannot communicate congruently. Like, if you don't believe in your product or service, find a way to go believe in it more or make it better until you do.
And there's ways to build that belief too. Like I have a client who's a personal trainer, and she's had trouble selling in the past. And I said, okay, this is what I want you to do. I want you to send me an audio message. Let's pretend that I inquired about your services. I want to know what I'm getting.
Right.
I want to know what differentiates you. That's one of the things, like, get clear on your messaging by actually saying it out loud.
Right.
Because eventually you're going to be doing phone calls. I remember, like,
That's just the thing.
scared me.
Yep.
I remember the first couple times I hopped on the phone, it was like, oh, geez, what am I going to say? Like, what is this going to be like? It's just like that with anything else. Like, the first couple podcasts are going to be rough.
Right.
But when you understand the flow, when you realize this is the intro, okay, this is how I introduce the guests, things become normal. So I would say in order to build more belief, you have to practice not only prospecting, but practice what your messaging is going to be when somebody asks you about it.
Yeah. You can also do a test group.
Yeah.
Test group
Yeah.
of like let's say you have a new training course, you can test it on people, see their reaction, get a testimonial, and that will help you sell, but also you'll see the real value of it. Either the product or service needs work, or it's already tremendous and ready for market.
Fire.
Number 4, what is one misbelief that you had about sales that held you back?
I think, honestly, the biggest one was the sleazy part, honestly. Like, the biggest part for me was assuming that if I try to sell to somebody, it's going to be annoying to them. They're going to be offended. They're going to think I'm a crappy person. They're going to think I'm sleazy. They're going to think I'm trying to pull the wool over their eyes. Like, those were all misbeliefs. And again, just like anything else, like, there's bad salespeople out there who just want to sell you. They don't care about your experience, right? There's a lot of those things out there, but you know, there's bad people to date out there. There's bad businesses to work for. There's bad cars. Like, just because you had one experience with a bad car doesn't mean every car is going to be that way.
The word sales is so messed up.
It is.
It should be persuasion. It should be influence.
Well, I think persuasion's even.
I know. It should be influence. Imagine if you were not able to influence Taryn to want to be with you.
To love me.
Right.
What's the definition of sales?
Like, imagine if you were too afraid to ask Taryn to coffee. What did you ask her to do?
I asked her to coffee, and she says, make it tea, and you got yourself a deal.
Okay,
Which I
perfect.
should have known because we dated earlier. And I
Right,
knew
so
she
that's
didn't like
bad
coffee.
sales.
Yeah, I saw.
No, I'm kidding.
Sale, the exchange of a commodity for money, the action of selling something. Great. Awesome.
Real good. So sales is actually influence. So let's reframe that first of all. Imagine if you couldn't influence someone. When I reached out to Emilia to ask her on a date, that was me trying to influence her to come and join me on a wonderful evening. And if I wasn't able to do that and or didn't have the courage to actually reach out, as a matter of fact, I didn't. I unsent the DM 3 times, then we wouldn't be in a relationship right now. So that's the one misbelief that I'll harp on right now is what Kevin said. Like, you're not a bad person for selling something. As a matter of fact, let's all think about something that changed our life right now, like a product or a service that really changed our life. I have one, jumped off the page right now. Darren Hardy's Insane Productivity, best money I've ever spent in my life. If he wasn't good at sales and marketing, I would not be who I am today. Period. What's one for you?
One thing, one product?
Product or service that's changed your life.
Brennan Burchard's. The thing to make courses. I don't remember what it's called.
Right, the Total Product Blueprint.
Total Product Blueprint. So hard to say.
Right.
And this is the other thing, too. Think about the people that you respect. Like, think about if we were to say The Rock.
Right.
You would say, well, he's not a salesman. Every time he jumps on his social media and talks about a movie, he's selling his movie.
Exactly. He's influencing you
He's
to watch his
influencing
movie.
you. And that is every single interaction we have is somebody influencing the other person. If you are with your friends and you like say, oh, I want to see this movie. They say, I want to see this movie. You're trying to sell them on your movie. They're trying to sell you on their movie, and that's not a bad thing.
Right now, we're trying to sell you on the idea that selling isn't bad.
Right.
At all times, you are being influenced. All times. 24/7, 365. The only question is who's influencing you and in what way, and is that congruent? Fire.
Sales is an interesting thing.
Right? Okay. And by the way, one quote real quick.
Oh, boy.
Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Big fan.
He says, he who has this skill has the whole world with him. He who does not walks a lonely way. Imagine if you could not persuade anyone to come see a movie with you. Imagine if you could not influence anyone to read the books you read or go to the gym with you or join you for dinner or join you for coffee. You would be alone.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as coexisting with other people without the art of persuasion or influence. Okay. Imagine if we couldn't influence you to be better. We would be terrible podcasters.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the other thing, too. You can have the best products or podcast or TV show. You can have the best anything in the world. If you're not able to sell it,
Right.
then you're in trouble. And I'll recommend a book, Psychology of Selling by Brian Tracy.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a really good book for, like, you have the Seller Be Solds of the world with Grant Cardone, and I just think that's very hardcore.
Right.
And if you're new to sales, Brian Tracy is like a very calm, even-keeled guy, and he gives so many great examples in that book. And that's what I've been recommending to a lot of people because that helped me come at it from the aspect of like, okay, so you're a little afraid to sell. Like, let's dive into, what it actually is, what can help you, and all that stuff.
What's one big takeaway from that book? We have 13 minutes, so I want to make sure.
One big takeaway from that book. My goodness. Honestly, one of the things he says is like, you have to practice. It's so much more than sales. If you're afraid to sell, you're probably not confident in your value of yourself. So one of the things he says is like, you should start out every single day with positive affirmations. Every day. I like myself. I like myself. I like myself. Like, that's what he says.
Right.
And that to me was like, am I afraid of getting rejected? Yeah, but why? Why am I actually afraid of getting rejected? Because I don't feel like I'm valuable enough. Okay, let me switch that over to my product or service. Do I think my product or service is valuable enough? I do. What if somebody rejects it? How do I not take that to heart? And that's by going back to like, I'm a valuable person. I feel valuable.
Right.
I like myself. I'm proud of myself for what I'm doing. Maybe this person is having a bad day. Maybe this person doesn't see the value. Okay, well, there's a chance for me to do better at that. Maybe I have to go back to the drawing board and figure out like, okay. And the other thing is too, we're going deep into sales here, but you have to understand what your customer values.
Right.
So if you notice how clear I was at the beginning of, and I'm not great at this either. I'm not like great at, I think I'm all right, but I'm not great at sales or marketing. I'm just not yet. I will be eventually.
Getting there.
But the way you portray your message, so my messaging to my podcast client is always going to be different than my messaging to a mindset client because they value different things. My podcast client wants a fire podcast with the least amount of work, and that's why it's more expensive, right? Because it's done for you. I'm doing everything for you. You were just the talent. Where the mindset person is probably somebody who might not have that money. They might be a younger person who's just not confident and they want clarity and they want coverage. That's a different, so I have to market that differently. If I said to them, I'm going to do all the work for you and you don't have to do anything, that's not valuable to you guys.
Here's one of the best analogies I've ever heard. Imagine selling a water bottle after someone did a 25-mile run. Imagine selling a water bottle to that person versus someone who just drank a gallon of water the day before. One person has a need, a deep burning desire for your product. So it might not be you being bad at sales. It might be you're trying to sell to people that don't care about what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I struggle with this every day of my life because I'm always trying to, for lack of better phrasing, sell personal development. I live and breathe it every single day. Fitness and personal development and lifestyle design. That's what I'm selling 24/7, 365. I believe in human potential and I'm trying to help people maximize that. I'm trying to sell it to people who don't care a lot of the time, and it's such a waste of my time and energy. So it might not be you being bad at persuasion or influence. It might be because you're, selling to the wrong people.
Yeah. How do you know the difference between an objection when somebody says like, yeah, that price point's too high, I can't afford that, and the wrong person?
That's a great question. It would come down to how well you know that prospect. So every objection, in my opinion, is a mask for uncertainty if they're the right prospect. But how do you know if they're the right prospect? If they have a burning desire for what you offer, which you can only kind of tell by their own level of enthusiasm.
Right. So it's just depending on how good your vetting is when you're prospecting.
Right. You know how, like, you ever played hot and cold? Like, I hit
touch butt? Touch butt game?
Shit. No. So imagine I hid something in this room.
Oh, yeah, I played that game.
And then I say, go find it. And I say, you're warmer. Okay. That's sales. And if they were never even warm, you know they're the wrong prospect.
Interesting. Fire analogy.
Cool.
That was better than the other one.
What was the other one?
I have this fire analogy that I say all the time. Imagine if somebody just ran 25 miles and you had water and the other person drank 1 gallon yesterday.
So what I was supposed to say,
go on,
is imagine someone was dying in a desert.
Right.
And they were near death.
Drink that water.
Yeah. And then you had a water bottle. Like, that's a warm prospect. They have a burning desire, need for what you want.
Yes.
I screwed it up.
It's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Number 5.
Moving on.
We're being fun here now. I like it. What's one huge benefit to deciding to overcome this fear that you did not anticipate?
Being able to help other people in the same position as me. I never anticipated that. I never thought I would ever help somebody with sales because I was so adamantly against sales. Mm-hmm. And then once I realized, like, I had a moment the other day, I put this on my Instagram story, when I was at one of my clients' houses, and I did like a boomerang, and I was in his studio recording with him. And it was like, at one point, this was just a dream. And that never would have happened if I didn't get good enough at sales. Like, that, getting that client, who's now a friend and like an amazing dude, that was so hard. I went to his place of work 3 times. I had 2 or 3 different calls with him. Like, so much work.
Yeah.
But it was amazing that, like, it really locked in the belief of, like, you're really valuable when it
used to
comes
get so anxious before the
Oh, it
calls
was brutal.
and stuff, dude.
It was brutal.
Dude.
But now I know, like, how valuable that what I have is, that service is.
Right.
I know how valuable that is. So the biggest benefit, I think, for me is being able to help people that were, and again, I'm no Grant Cardone. I don't know all of that stuff. But if you're early in your business, if you're early as an entrepreneur and you're having trouble selling and you're not making money, it's probably because you're not good at prospecting. That is 100% the first thing I say. Like, I want to grow my business. How are you prospecting? Because everybody is prospecting.
How do you decide who's a good prospect?
You get clear on who your product best serves.
Right. Fire.
I always ask, like, and shout out.
How do you do that?
So shout out to Summer Scalero for teaching us about the ICA, the Ideal Client Avatar. Like, who is your customer? How much money do they make a year? What's their name? Are they single? Where do they work? Like, are they busy? That, and then realizing what are their biggest pain points that you're trying to solve. For me, if you're a busy CEO, you don't want to learn how to podcast. You don't want to do 300 episodes to figure out the best way to do it. You want somebody to come in and teach you.
Right.
Right? And so knowing that is like, okay, where do I look? I look on LinkedIn versus Instagram.
Yeah. Fire.
I still look on Instagram, but LinkedIn more.
So you need to understand your product and service and the problems that it solves, the pains that it alleviates, and then who has those pains. Again, the desert. The guy, right, the desert. The guy who is dying of thirst needs water 10 times more than the person who has an abundance of water who lives by a lake.
Yeah.
So target the guy who's dying of thirst. Whatever your product or service is, what is the pain that alleviates? Like, if someone's having relationship challenges and they're about to get divorced, they're more likely to hire a relationship coach. You should be prospecting to them.
Yeah.
Right.
In the Psychology of Selling, he says it's an exchange of enthusiasm. That's all sales is.
Fire.
It's an exchange of enthusiasm. And that's why you should really only sell something that you're fired up about, you're passionate about. Imagine being a telemarketer. Like, that would be, if you're not interested in that, it's not going to be the sales route you want to go. But imagine you start creating your own custom jewelry.
Right.
And you love that so much.
Right.
You're going to want to sell it. You're going to want to get people talking about it. You're going to want to see people wearing it and sharing that, sharing it on Instagram and Facebook and all that, all the social medias.
So I want to call Kevin out publicly on the podcast. I would love it if the last 5 minutes we took where you tried to sell me something that you were not enthusiastic about.
Okay.
And then try to sell me something that you were enthusiastic about.
All right. What?
And I want to show the listeners the difference.
All right.
All right. So what's something that you could care less about?
Is it like care less, or I just don't like?
I would love it to be an aversion. Yeah. Something you don't like.
All right.
Something you don't believe in that a lot of people buy or whatever.
Okay. Mr. Lazarus.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good, man.
Good.
How you living?
Pretty good. Do you have a good weekend?
Yeah.
You
Do
anything fun?
Yeah. I went on a hike. Not a hike. It was a walk.
Yeah.
With little Tucker and my girlfriend. It was a wonderful weekend. Super productive.
It was wonderful.
It was wonderful.
What do you? I find a lot of people nowadays have trouble fitting in. Do you ever feel that way?
Oh yeah.
I have these cigarettes, and if you no, I know it is funny, but listen, if you were to buy these cigarettes, you would fit in with all the people. You ever seen a movie and that main character is just ripping down these cigarettes? He looks so cool. Low light, camera angle from the side. He just seems so cool. Imagine if you could be that.
Right.
You in?
No, sir. I take health and fitness very seriously. You are selling to the wrong guy.
Well, you won't fit in there.
Thanks, though.
Loser.
Wow, you really took that seriously.
I try.
That was cool.
Yeah.
That was cool. Okay, now tell me something you do believe in.
Oh, goodness. Mr. Lazarus.
Yes.
Hey, how are you? I'm Kevin Palmieri, the
good,
host
man.
and
How you living?
creator and CEO of the Hyperconscious Podcast.
Cool.
You listen to podcasts at all?
I do.
You do. What kind of podcasts do you like?
So I like personal development podcasts.
Personal development podcasts. Okay.
Right.
What is your definition of personal development?
Figuring out how to be a better version of yourself congruent with your highest ambitions and core values.
My goodness, it sounds like you've said that before.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big fan.
So I actually, go figure, I actually host a podcast. It's called the Hyperconscious Podcast.
Really?
And my co-host, Alan, and I, he's great looking dude, nice guy, real nice guy.
Thanks, man.
It's our goal to pull back the curtain on what success really looks like. What are the habits? What are the mindsets? What are the actual actions? What is the story behind the successful people? Not just what they say, but like sometimes what they've never said before.
No kidding.
And we're all about success. We're all about becoming the best version of yourself.
Right.
I have a card. You mind if I give this to you? You can check it out. Let me know what you think of it.
Please, let's say I listen to your podcast. Like, what am I going to get out of it?
Oh, we cater it to all different levels of people,
Right.
right? So if you're early in your journey, you're going to get more clarity, and you're
Right.
going to hear from people who might not have known what they wanted immediately out of life. Evan Carmichael is a great example.
Right.
And through that episode, you'll learn, you should probably follow your pain. So the thing that hurts you the deepest might be the thing that you want to help other people with.
Wow.
We help with that. We also talk about sales occasionally.
No kidding.
And we have on all sorts of different guests, authors, athletes, musicians, all sorts of different people. You in or out?
I have one question before I say if I'm in.
Yeah, sure.
It's how handsome is the host?
The host himself?
Yeah.
Stud.
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 Is he jacked?
Oh, yeah, he's super jacked.
Oh, okay,
Got
perfect. I'm
tattoos,
in.
too.
Okay, nice.
Tattoos, yeah.
Right.
All right,
Perfect.
cool. Have a good one.
Strong work. Strong work. All right. You see the difference in his congruence in his communication. One of them, he's selling something he believes in deeply. The other one, he's selling something that he's adamantly against. Obviously, those are two extremes. But that's the thing. Like, check in with how much you believe in the thing. Because you know who talks about this a lot is Dean Graziosi. He says if you probably don't suck at sales, you just don't believe in yourself or in your product.
The other thing, too, is like, why does, and obviously I screwed up some things. I said earther or something, but why
Kid can't even
do
talk.
I know what to say around certain things? Like, I say this to my clients and other just friends too. Like, they'll see me on a podcast and be like, oh, that was a great answer. The reason the answer is great is because I've said it before.
Right.
And yeah, I come off the top with some things, but like, you should know your product and your service so well that you know what sounds best. You know what's going to sound good.
Right.
And again, like, that was on the spot and that probably wasn't great, but you guys should know your product or your service and kind of know in advance your prospect.
Right.
I asked Alan, what kind of podcasts do you listen to? Oh, you listen to these kind of podcasts? So that's why it was hard to find something to talk about when I was selling the smoking thing. Nothing has to do with smoking,
Right.
unless you want to look cool.
I like movies, so you went there.
Tried.
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 One more thing. So, notice my answer for personal development. Like, why did I know that right away? And Kevin also knew that was something I was interested in. So you're connecting someone else's circle of concern, in other words, something they care about, to your product.
Yeah.
So I care about personal development. He knew that going in. So that's where research is so important. So researching your ICA is absolutely everything.
My goodness. So we hope you enjoyed this. This was definitely different. I think we went a little more hardcore than usual. Let us know. Send us a DM, share this, whatever. Let us know how you like this, because Alan and I are trying to make sure that we are adding value in every way possible, and we're 330 episodes in. You guys are evolving and growing as we are, so we want to make sure that we're not babying you. We want to make sure that we're challenging you and adding as much value as humanly possible. Up next, we have an episode with the one and only Jarek Robbins. We haven't recorded it yet, so I can't tell you what it's going to be like, but it will be great.
That'll be absolute fire. One more 10-second blip takeaway.
Oh yeah. If you can learn how to sell something, you'll never be broke another day in your life. I think you taught me that one, so sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. What would my 10-second blip be? If you don't feel like you're good at selling, you either don't believe in yourself enough yet, or you don't believe in the value of your product or service enough yet.
Fire. Keyword yet.
Yet.
We hope you enjoyed this, and we will talk to you on Sunday.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.